All right, before we start, we just want to mention that we do these weekly Zooms, me and Shannon, where we speak about spirituality, non-duality, twin flames, divine partners, whatever you'd like to talk about. And it's a safe place for us to speak about anything that we want regarding, obviously, anything. And Shannon's email is in the description box, so you can email her and, you know, if you want to come on our Zooms. And that's about it. Shannon, I'll hand it back to you. Kick us off.
Okay, so something there was a viewer that had asked a really interesting question that I would like to answer on here. And I'm gonna go ahead and go to it. I was in the I thought it was really interesting. But anyways, they asked, let me shut this off. They said, sorry.
Monique is on.
Hey, Monique. But it said, she asked this, okay? She said, how do you deal with going back into identifying after awakening?
Oh.
And yeah, so, of course, my reply was, well, there's this realization that everything is just a story and that there's no getting out of the story and that it is what it is, right? I was like, but over here, I said, there is no identifying, only in the story.
Okay.
I mean, how do you guys deal with identifying things now that you're awake? Whatever.
I think, like, for me, when the realization happened for me, I realized that everything is real and unreal. So you don't get to pick. There's no escape, like you said. Even though you know that everything is nothing, you're still in everything. Like, everything is still happening the same as it is. It was a little disappointing for me because I thought there was escape. I'd probably like end up flying in outer space somewhere and be free. But you are free, but still here, you know? So yeah, I'm kind of just describing it the same way that you describe it. Like, there's no escape. You have to deal with life still because it's appearing to happen. What about you, Monique?
Pretty much the same. Like, yeah, like it's seeing that you're in it. There can still be all the same apparent emotions that appear. They seem to me, like you said, you feel them and somewhat, I don't know, it feels like sometimes like you feel them like a flash flood deeper, what I mean?
God.
But then they're gone quicker, like there's no story, there's no thought that keeps on and on and on about it. I mean, there's still thoughts about whatever appears to be happening, but there doesn't seem to be the attachment that the apparent mind had before, with this long drawn out woe is me story. You can still be mad that something's happening in the moment, or frustrated or angry or happy or joyful, but it doesn't stick. None of it. It just goes right back to me. Like, I don't even flat line. No, it's not bad though. I mean, make it sound like it's horrible. Like you don't feel anything. You're just numb all the time. It's not like that. It's just, the all the apparent suffering that goes with the person seems to not be as an intense apparent experience.
Yeah, because it'd be miserable for the person to, and we know, there is no person, but in the story there is. And it would be miserable for the person to walk around all the time saying, that's the story, that's the story, that's the story. I mean, God, I mean, all there is just the story. That's all we really know is the story. So like in the story, there's knowing, right? And it's like you get to the point where it's like, I feel more comfortable in the story now. You know, I'm more comfortable with identifying with things, because before, when I was coming in and out of realization, I was pretty fucking uncomfortable, because you know, there was this realization that everything's the story, right? But yet you still had to identify with things. So coming in and out was more uncomfortable for me. But now that there's this realization that everything is the story, I'm more comfortable and I'm okay with it, you know? So, I mean, that's where I'm at on that. You
You,
know, I
you
really
know,
don't know anything. I really don't know anything, but apparently in the story I do.
Shannon, you helped me a lot with that because remember when I was coming in and out,
Yes, you were. That
I
was so
was like, that's an illusion. That's not real. And you're like, you're gonna get sick of that shit, and you're just gonna be like, okay. And I was so, intensely like, no, that's not real. That's real. That's an illusion. It's like just back and forth. But yeah, you helped me because I needed. And now it's okay. Everything's okay. But when you're first having your awakening, you're just like, like I don't know. It just feels
I
like you have
resonated
to.
with you though. I did. I resonate because you know why? I was where you were at. So I actually saw it for the first time myself in you, because I saw like, oh my God, that's where you know what I mean? So yeah, but it was comical as hell, because you like, if I would say something about something, I'd be like, well, you know, the person was, and you like, but there is no person. She gets me, Monique, right away. She's like, but there ain't no person. And then like everything that I would say, she was, but yeah, but that's not you know.
Yeah, I was on it like so bad. Like I think in the beginning you are, and you can't like really. I was just like, oh, she's not awake because she's not saying that. But
Yeah.
then it's funny because now I don't give a shit if I say there's a person or I don't say there's a person. Like I don't. You lose that. You lose that you have to say those things. But when you're going through it in the beginning, like you start talking exactly like them. But now who gives a shit if there's a person or no person or whatever? And it's just, yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like it in the beginning when, apparently realization happened, there was this need to correct,
Yeah.
my and when I hear someone else talking about it be listening to, a podcast on non-duality and hear somebody talking to the host, I'd be in the background in my room, but there is no you.
No.
There is like blah 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 blah. Like it's all an illusion.
Yeah.
It's even real. The same thing. Like I think there's just that apparent, even that's a story, blah blah blah, adjustment period where you're just so uncompromising because that's what it feels like at first. Like, and even I'm saying too much now. Like there's this big change. It's noticed, but it's still your life.
Yeah.
Still, it's apparently unfolding with just there's no one doing it, and that's just pretty much as simple as for me I could put it. There's just seeing that it's no one doing it. It's happening the way it's going to happen. There is no you doing it. It's just unfolding the way it's unfolding, and the same old things can appear: anger and hatred and frustration and happiness and joy, and it's all still there apparently, but there's just the stickiness part of it, seems the attachment and the creating of more suffering. The creating of suffering seems to dissipate on some level. You don't really create it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm wondering if I could say something that just
yeah.
came up for me. So I've been having it's not an argument, but I've been discussing a lot of things with my new boyfriend the last week. And I've noticed that I never tell him, like, I barely say you. Like, I barely like blame him, or like there's less of that because there's no one here to pinpoint there. So it's just like life happening, a discussion happening, but there's less like you did this or I did, I don't know, there's less pinpointing, less self, right? In a relationship. And that's like where the self really shows up, I would say. Like, I know the self shows up everywhere, but the self shows up really, really prominent in a relationship. Like, you did this to me and I did that to you and you didn't, so it's just interesting. I'm seeing that unfold here, that whenever I speak, I'm just talking about a situation and not a blame. And it's easier to have a relationship like that because the person doesn't feel attacked or you know it's just different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was something that was that came up for me.
Wow. Yeah, no, that hasn't, I haven't noticed anything like that with me, with relationships in general, like just people. But yeah, no, that's something that's interesting that you brought that up. I do want to bring up, remember when me and you first met and when I first answered the phone to you, the first I love it though, I have to say it.
Oh my
The first thing
god.
the first thing she said was, "Did you die yet?" She said, "Are you dead?" So it kind of took me off a little bit. I said, "What?" She goes, "But did you die yet?" And then I kind of put two together and I knew what you meant. But at first I was like,
So desperate, Monique. I was so desperate for like to meet someone that's died already. So when I reached out to Shannon on Instagram, I said, did you die yet?
yeah,
And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But then she was like, yeah.
yeah, I did.
Oh my God.
It's funny. You can actually
Yeah.
meet someone that you really think is cool and see that they're like maybe
Yeah.
on a parent path and say, wow, I hope you die soon.
I know. I mean, because it could be a lonely path, right? Like it could be
Yeah.
like no one's really understands you. You can't talk to your family. No one knows what you're going through. So yeah, that was my introduction conversation with Shannon was, did you die yet? And that's the first words I ever said to her.
Yeah, it was the first thing you said. So it kind of, but then I put two together, and I was like, oh no, yeah, okay. Because I had already, realization had already hit for me. So I was no longer like, yeah, so I didn't, but I'm glad I met you though. I'm glad I met both of you guys because it's just
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
a breath of fresh air.
It's
I
been
really like
so
our
great.
connection, yeah, with all of us. Yeah, I really do.
I'd be sometimes like watching the Zooms back and some of the things I'd be just cracking up.
Oh
I'm
my God. When you guys were doing, I think I was like late coming into one of them and you guys were doing the Palladian, I was dying laughing when I rewatched it because it was in the beginning when I didn't know you had done it. And then I rewatched it later and I was like, oh my
yeah,
God.
that's Shannon thing. I don't know about that. I never went that route.
I don't want to do.
Shannon actually sent me a YouTube video of it, and I put it on the other day,
Me
and I was like,
too.
"What the hell
I
is that?"
watched it. I'm like, hey, listen, there's no judgment. It's just funny. That's
Yeah,
all
it was
is.
really
If
funny.
you're
Yeah, no
talking to
judgment.
if you're talking to aliens, man, more power to you. That's cool. Good luck. Have fun. Tell them I said hi.
Hey, I did some weird ass shit too. I mean, I didn't do the whole like that stuff, but I was super like talking to Jesus like on a regular. Like, I mean, like he was like by my side. Like
You had
I
him on
some
speed
weird-
dial.
Yeah, I had him on speed dial, like for real. It was really, really it was very interesting. Me and Jesus had a little love affair for a while.
Hey,
Wow.
anything can happen in the story. Come on.
Yeah, anything.
Well, I have just put out a video like just yesterday talking about, dealing with what's coming up for you, when we have these emotions that come up and just how, basically it's so much more intense now for the character here, it's just super intense. And like, there's no telling when it's going to fall away neither, because it can last and then it may not last very long, but either way you're dealing with it. And I tell you what, a lot of the trauma for me has been death And I have a real big thing about my grandbabies. Like I, I worry about somebody taking them or something happening to them. Like these are things that come up. Like my daughter, she went to go take them to this big old fun place. And I said, please make sure you put, please, please make sure you put Phoenix on a leash. And she's like, Mom, stop inflicting your fear onto me. And I'm like,
Oh
I
my
told
God.
her, I was like, that's just a thing for me. It's a trigger. I was like, I have nightmares about it, abductions and stuff. Like, I don't even like putting that out there like that, but these are things that are traumas for me. And I don't, it's just what's coming up, but having to just deal with it is, it's very intense and just in my face more so now than ever. Death,
When just because you've had a spiritual awakening, doesn't mean that you don't have things that scare you anymore. I mean, even though you face all your fears on the path, you stare at them right in the face, and you deal with that shit. But they still, some of them still show up, right? I have my trauma, that I still deal with. I have fears sometimes. I mean, they just don't linger the way they used to, but that shit still shows up, and it kind of just shows you life is going to be life. Like you can't escape shit. Like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I mean, and then you don't know when it's going to go away. It will show up for you, and then it could go away at any time. And in the path, so you're on the spiritual path, something shows up, you go meditate, you go hug a tree, you go hike, you go do all these things to take it away. But now you just stare at it. Yeah, you go whatever, smoke cigarettes, go have sex, go eat, whatever. I don't know, you have an addiction or whatever. But you don't do that anymore. Now you're just like, hey, it is what it is when it's happening. And you can't get out of it. There's this acceptance of life is appearing to happen, and I don't have to change it, But it sucks. Honestly, it hurts more now. Like it's like Shannon just said, like or Monique, you said it was a flash flood of emotions. And that's what it feels like when something is coming up. It's a flash. It feels like a flood. Like, I'm overwhelmed with this, and then in a blink of an eye, it's gone. It's like, what the fuck? Like, maybe someone could think you're crazy, but you're not. It's just, you're fully getting to process and experience the situation and moving on, instead of having it processed through increments or over time, so that's why it becomes so heavy. But I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, Shannon, because I feel like this week has been pretty heavy for me. And it's just not all roses after a spiritual awakening. And people that claim, right, these gurus claim that they're in a love state all the time are not awakened. That's impossible. You're a human being. Shit happens. You have a heart. You feel even more. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
No, you're right. I mean, I get that. Like this week too, for me, there's been stuff coming up with my daughter and my 2 grandkids, and stuff that has engulfed me in rage of what's happening with my daughter and her father of her children. Like how he's keeping, I don't want to get into the whole saga apparently, but my daughter does not have access to her children, and he's doing it on purpose to hurt her. So, and I feel rage, like rage that, I hate him. Like there's and then it goes and it calms right down. But before, there would be crying, and not saying that can't all be there, but it's definitely intense. Like when I'm feeling something emotional, it's
It gets to the heights,
the height of
the emotion.
When it's on the other spectrum of happiness or joy, it also feels way deeper and amazing and wow. Like same thing. The anger, it's not so fun, but it's definitely the same type of intensity, like really, really raging angry inside. Like I'm gonna spontaneously combust from the flames of hate. But then it goes, and it sounds crazy, right? But then it just like goes away. Like it just dissipates way quicker than it would have in the character.
Yeah, it's like yesterday I was depressed, and I was like feeling a low, like I mean to the ground. And then I had this heartbreaking, shattering moment, and I'm just like, I'm gonna die, from this intensity. And then just like that, I was like, okay, I'm done. And it, like within a blink of an eye, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, it's just because we're just not blocking anything anymore. We're not there's no more processing. It's happening now. And yeah, you could feel this feeling of love and closeness and deep happiness, but then you could also feel the depths of hell at the same time. But they just, everything keeps on changing. Shannon always says that. So yeah.
Different energies. It's weird because I can go from like being upset about my grandbabies and my daughter, and then I can go from there to thinking about fixating on death, and then from death to fixating on some like a friend or something, whatever, that I'm pissed off at or just want them. It just hops back and forth, but it's more intense now because there's no more trying to heal it. There's no more trying to meditate it away. There's no more trying to say a mantra or drink alcohol or smoke weed, smoke a cigarette, whatever. It's just, it is what it is now. And that's all there is, really. It's just in your face type of shit, and yeah. Man, I think all three of us have been in a really dark place this week.
Yeah, this week was tough, and I'm glad to hear you guys are on the same page.
Yeah, like how the fuck does that even happen?
Yeah, last week we were cracking up. This week was a tough week for all of us, and the emotions got really, really intense. But I guess we've purged enough, on the spiritual path for us to be able to handle this kind of intensity,
Yeah.
I'm fucking tired. I need a break.
Right?
I don't want any more emotions this week. Give me a break.
I've literally looked like hell all week. I ain't done shit with myself. I don't know. I've just literally just been bleh all week, and that's normally not like me, but it is what it is. I'm just dealing with shit right now. But I did want to bring up about Ariana. I don't know what happened to her. She's no longer, she does not come up anymore on my feed. And I went on her YouTube channel and she barely has any videos up. But what I do want to say about her, and I hope she's watching, but she may not be, because she gets a lot of, people that, have been talking about her, saying that, basically, and I ain't gonna lie, I was one of them that couldn't resonate. I tried to resonate with her, and I always felt like I felt like a spiritual vibe from her. But I will say this week, I went to her channel, and I think at the time, I was coming in and out of realization when I was watching her. So I really just couldn't get there with her. You know what I mean? How you just try to get there. I couldn't get there with her. But this week, I literally went to her channel, and for the first time, I resonated with everything that she was saying. Everything. It just hit me like, so this is what it was the whole time. But at the time, I couldn't see it, right? Because it wasn't meant to be seen at that time or whatever. It took Kenneth Madden to like kind of,
cut your throat off.
Yes. But now that realization has happened, apparently, I can watch her and say, okay, I see you.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
I get that. That happened to me last week too, Shanny.
See?
Same thing. Crazy? I went to Open Elder, and I just happened to come up, and I thought, I'll watch it. And never in the past had I I resonated with things that she said, but it was like something she said. I don't even remember what it was, obviously, now, but I went, I feel that. I feel that. Like it wasn't from here. It's from, in here. But I was like, I'm there. I got that. Like, not the me, but like I was like, yeah, I I get it. That I feel that, it's a feeling more than anything of a resonance. So I get it.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Same thing.
beautiful, guys.
It was
You know, I
cool.
never, I never resonated with Ariana. Um, so, but I'm glad you guys are having that experience. It sounds beautiful.
But have you went back yet? Have you went back?
Well, yeah, no, I did this week. I watched like one Kenneth video, but I resonate with Kenneth and Jim Newman.
Okay.
Those are the two that, really killed me. They killed me off.
But have you gone back to Ariana? Sorry, I don't know.
She was never any like I know who Ariana is, right?
Yeah.
Because of Theo, and I think it's like a group,
Yeah, no, I know.
But I never watched her videos and was like, oh my God, she knows exactly what's like. No, she talked too much for me to ever feel like for me to connect with her, because when you have a spiritual awakening, you kind of go blank. Like there's less speaking in your internal dialogue. She had too much to say for me, and I'm sorry if she's watching right now. That's just my preference, or it didn't resonate with me as much to speak that clearly about what's happening, because you can't really speak about it. I can never say it in the right words. That's why we talk. That's why we're on this Zoom, so we can somehow connect, because it's undescribable what we've been through. She had too much explanation for me that it just kind of turned me off, you know.
With her, with me, it was more like it was so deep for me. Like I don't know. I can't even explain it, to be honest with you, but she drew me in because I did binge watch a lot of her stuff. I binge watched the shit out of her stuff because I was so drawn in by her. But there was just so, like you said, there was just so much going on. But she did have her moments where she did space out, where she kind of would just, and I felt like at that time she was coming in and out of realization herself.
Yeah.
And then once it hit, it was like she was, wanting to speak about it. And I feel like during that time of her wanting, speaking on it, I don't know, I just couldn't get there with her, even though I was so drawn by her. I don't know, there's something magical about her, and I can't even say, apparently something magical about her. So I was drawn by her, but like I said, once I watched Kenneth, that's when it was just, yeah. But I just want her to know that I don't know, I don't even know what's going on with her right now. I can't speak for her, but I get it now. I mean, I don't get it, but I resonate. I see her. I see you, and I'm thankful to her because, man, she did get me through some times, even though I wasn't really quite there yet. I mean, I still, when I was feeling low and stuff, I would go right to her page. And I don't know, it was her and Anna Brown. That was that. I don't know. I binge watched the shit out of them. And who else got me through it? I think I mentioned somebody before that. But anyways, yeah. And then, like I said, this week I was going through it, and not that I was seeking or anything. It was just I needed I can resonate because what I'm saying. They speak about nothing.
Stuff that yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, let me just go ahead and just listen. You know what I mean? But yeah, anyways, I'm just rambling on here.
I was gonna say, like, I watched Ariana too, especially right after, realization is when I was watching like everybody. I really resonated a lot with Emerson for some reason.
Yes.
But I kind of had the same experience that Jasmine had. Like, I liked Ariana, like, and I could watch her videos, but I didn't feel this deep resonance with her. Like, I didn't. I mean, she had a warmth that I liked, as far as I thought she was super cool, but I didn't feel like when I watched Kenneth or, Jim, I didn't feel as I just, for some reason, there was more of a resonance with Kenneth and Jim as well. But my go-to was, Tony Parsons was initially what I mean. I watched Anna Brown. We talked about that. And Tony Parsons watched. I feel like that video is when within a day or two something appeared. Then it was mostly Emerson, and then became friends with Emerson. So I was really watching a lot of his stuff. But I did like Ariana though. I did think that she was very peaceful.
I would
Yeah.
watch like Emerson when I was just chilling, but the first person I came across was Jim Newman. I just looked at his website. I just looked at his website, not even reading it. And my head got completely cut off. Like I remember like blink. And I was like, oh my God, this guy, he just killed me off. And then Kenneth finished me off. And
Yeah.
Emerson was just the days that I just was confused, But Ariana and Theo were just it was too much mental activity for me after a spiritual awakening. I was too quiet inside to handle their communication style.
I like how you say Kenneth finished you off, because that's exactly what he did for me. He finished me. I don't even think he realizes, but yeah, he finished me off. That was
I called him and told him. I called
Yeah.
Kenneth and told him, I said, you're killing me off right now. And he was like, the best. He's like, that's the best compliment I've ever heard.
Oh,
I'm like, you sure are killing me off right now. That was funny.
oh,
I love Tim Kliss. I think he's great. I just
I
love
haven't. I don't know
I
who
watch
he
a
is.
lot.
I think I saw one video after you told me, but I don't know who Tim is.
I'm going to see him in Asheville in April.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
Oh
super
my
excited.
God. That's so fun.
Yeah, he's really I just resonate with him. He's funny, and I love the way he talks about. He had apparently a similar experience to you. He mourned the character big time. Like he wailed, he cried for himself. Like I get it. But yeah, he's cool.
That's so cool. Gotta get us on the Zoom and tell us what happened with that one.
Yeah.
When you're done.
So I wanted to get on the whole, oh shoot, you know what? We got 6 minutes left, but the whole twin flame thing. I don't mean to be, yeah. Well, I think me and Monique were talking about it this practically the whole week off and on, I think. And you know how like I was telling you about my first experience and then my second and then my third. And everything's written, or you go to coaches and you go to teachers and they write all this stuff, or they tell you all this stuff. Like apparently you do hear that there's a recognition. You do hear that there's the runner chaser, or and then there's also the long separation that they say as well. There's both. Then you hear that you go through the Kundalini awakening, and you hear about, I mean, there's so much shit that they write about and teach you about, that they say that this is it, right? But who's to say any of that shit is a twin flame thing? Twin flame is just a concept, number one, anyways. But it's like there's so much shit written about it. Yeah, apparently, yeah, when we met that person, we went through these things. We went to the Kundalini awakening. With me, I had the runner chaser, and I had the pull, that intense magnetic pull with the first one, right? Didn't go through the dark night of soul with that one, but who's to say that that's what you know what I'm saying? Nobody knows anything. These are all things that were written and made up. We really don't know. There's no meaning on anything. But apparently something's happening. I don't know. But like I said, they say you have that magnetic pull. You have that intense pull back and forth. Like I always felt when they were going to pull away from me. I always knew it, like, oh God, here we go. It's, or when they were coming. And sometimes, I'd feel it and they wouldn't show up. But with the second one, I went through the whole dark night of soul and all that shit, the Kundalini awakening, whatever. But I didn't, and I knew when he was going to walk away. I knew it. I was like, damn, this is it. And I never saw that motherfucker again until like later on. But you know what I'm saying? So there's all these stories that, and then I feel like the ones that go through the runner chaser, they're at the time that they're going through the runner chaser, they're going through the dark night of soul because it's a hit and miss thing. So they're going through it while the person is coming in and out. And then you got the one with the long separation that it really hits you because there's no fucking what do you call it? What do you call it? When you want to know, like there's no when they just leave and you don't have nothing to go off of.
Ghosting.
Ghosting, but there's another word for it on it. It's so fucking right there in my face. I can't even. It's there's no
they abandon you.
Yeah, they abandon you and you don't have no like answers. So that hits you even more. So you're really going through it. But with the runner chaser, you're going through it as they're doing it. So it's like, did I have the dark night of soul during that time? Probably, because I was going through it with them, back and forth, and having to deal with abandonment issues and all that shit. And then when the second one came along, it was like boom in your face. But then they say that, you meet a first one that could be your false twin, then you meet the real one, and then but then here comes my third one. And then the second one ended up showing up right after the third one. You know that, Monique. Yasmin, sorry, Monique. Because when we were talking, I was going through the shit with the third one, remember? And you were like,
yeah.
And all of a sudden, the second one shows up. So I don't know. Like, there's so much stories behind it. It's all yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. There's really no meaning to anything. It is what it is. And
I think it's the same thing as like the spiritual path, because there's so many spiritual teachers like Muji or Adi Shanti that talk about this is the path. You have to go through this and this and this and this. But you don't necessarily have to go through everything, every step. And it's the same thing with, the twin flames. Like everyone, look at all of our experiences are completely different. So you don't know. Someone could have a week of it, and,
did you freeze? Are you there?
So I mean, it could be different for everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
There's no set rules.
Yeah. I mean, if the 5-year thing is a thing, I mean, I just came up on my 4th. So like just heading into my 5th. So I think there's and I've heard that a lot from other stories, that 5 years gets mentioned. I hear that. Not that who knows if it's a thing. It could be 6 months. It could be, who knows.
And then you hear about the runner chaser too.
Like 5 years. I don't know. Maybe, there is no time, because it doesn't feel like that at all anymore. It doesn't feel like any time passed anymore. It just feels like it was, because there's no feeling of time anymore.
We only have 1 minute, guys. 1 minute. Okay. Unless you want to do another one.
I can't.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to.
I mean, if you want, huh?
It's up to you.
Yeah, we can do another one.
My daughter just served me dinner.
Oh.
She's so sweet.
How cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to, Monique, we can.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll do the second one, and then Yasmin will have another one again soon here.
All right. Great.
All
okay.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I'll see you in part 2, Shannon.
Yes.
Bye.